9, church choir practice at the Pleasant Valley United Methodist Church in Poughkeepsie finishes up for the night, and the friends say their goodnights.
It's a white church. The parking lot is across the street. And Susan comes out of choir practice. She's talking with a friend. And she walks across the street, waves goodbye to her friend. Other people are getting into the cars. She gets into her car and she sits down.
They were watching her. She was being watched.
As she puts her seatbelt buckle on, all of a sudden, 6 shots are fired into her. And these are basically at point blank range.
Started firing, just kept firing their gun at the car.
As people from choir practice are beginning to see what's going on, they run to the car, they go in, they dial 911, state police arrive, local police arrive, EMTs arrive, and Susan Fassett is still alive.
Susan Fassett is a farmer's daughter. A tall, attractive blonde, age 48, she's a slim and fit mother of 2 who lives with her husband and children in the town of Pleasant Valley. This part of Dutchess County is rapidly developing from working farms to sprawling malls. Susan is passionate about raising her family.
She took the kids everywhere. Yankee games, Catskills, on vacations, skiing. They went and did everything together.
As well as a devoted mother, she's a busy professional, employed by the city of Poughkeepsie.
She worked in human resources for the town, so she hired people.
Energetic and engaged with life from early morning till late at night, Susan can be spotted around town driving a flashy brand new SUV. She participates in fitness classes at the community center, nurtures her family, and supports her place of worship.
She goes to church 3 times a week, Sundays, and then she practices with the choir.
There appears to be nothing special about that Thursday night when, just like everyone else in her choir, Susan Fassett has dinner with her family, and then she leaves for singing rehearsal at the Pleasant Valley United Methodist Church.
On the outside, if you look at Susan Fassett's life, she's living the perfect life with the perfect family, in the perfect house, in the perfect town.
She participates in a normal night of choir practice, an activity she loves.
Susan is at choir practice, and she's singing her heart out, and choir practice ends.
But no one can know. This night is far from normal. Susan Fassett is identified to police by her friends at the scene.
Susan Fassett, she's the wife of the lieutenant in the police department. She's a mother of 2. She works for the town of Poughkeepsie.
There was a pulse. The EMS was there. They treated her. They tried to stabilize her.
And they rush her to the hospital.
Witnesses report that the car parked next to Susan's vehicle takes off at top speed after the shots.
They didn't know what kind of car it was.
A couple of the choir members even give a partial license plate number and describe it as a metallic covered station wagon. That's pretty distinct. So the state police have things to go on.
Officers search the scene for clues. Susan's friends and choir mates are stunned by the savage attack in the church parking lot.
If that happens, anything is possible.
There were shell casings at the scene. Shell casings at the scene were recovered, collected, and brought to the ballistics laboratory where they were sent for analysis.
As Susan is trying to be saved in the emergency room at the hospital, investigators are rushing to see if they can find this perpetrator. And they run that partial plate and the description of the vehicle.
Very swiftly, the search on the partial plate produces unexpected and ominous results.
And what they come up with is Jeff Fassett, a lieutenant in the police force.
The match is for Susan's husband, Jeff Fassett's car.
The number 1 suspect is always the other spouse. 85% of the cases, that's the case. he's a cop, he's a lieutenant, so he can be armed. And they decide to call out their SWAT team. They get the SWAT team and they surround the Fassett home. They're in the woods, hiding in the dark. So Jeff Fassett is at home with his son and his son's girlfriend. In fact, Jason Fassett, the son, and his girlfriend are leaving. And they go back inside the house and they say, Dad, what's going on? There are cops everywhere. Across the street, in the bushes. What's going on?
Jeff was a police officer, so all these cops that went to his house knew him, and they felt bad.
Jeff Fassett, police lieutenant, and his son and son's girlfriend are surrounded by Jeff Fassett's own police force.
They were having problems, Sue and her husband.
So Jeff Fassett explains, yeah, I knew she was having an affair. Inside the ER, Susan is fighting for her life, and she loses that fight.
Looking for a way to stretch the dollar? With Insurify, you can cut your car insurance bill in half. Scroll through dozens of prices and tap to switch online. That's it. No phone calls and no wasted time. Go to Insurify and save today.
Watch this. It's all 100% real. Witness what happens to this woman's bags under her eyes in an actual time lapse in just minutes. Nothing has been doctored or tampered with. The very real problem will disappear before your eyes and hers with a revolutionary topical formulation that works in just minutes, and the effects will last for hours and hours. Over 1 million people are using this topical technique to visually reduce puffiness and bags. It works on sagging jowls, even fine lines and wrinkles on the face and forehead. Introducing Plexiderm. In just minutes, you can restore and beautify your face, even look years younger. And the look will last all day or all evening.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I'm just in love with the mirror right now.
Jump on board and say yes to this amazing $14.95 Prove It Plexiderm trial. You'll see why our customers describe Plexiderm with 3 words. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Order right now. We'll pay your shipping. Operators are standing by.
To prove that there is such a thing as free money, we give people a little sample of Ibotta. Hi, would you like to try a sample? What is it? Ibotta.
I can just take this. Is this real?
Yes, you're not allergic, right? Get cash back every time you shop with Ibotta.
They're called Shinesty hammock underwear. Soft, sweat-wicking, breathable underwear with a supportive pouch built in. You don't realize you need new underwear until you try these. Love your first pair or they're free. Upgrade to hammock underwear at Shinesty.com.
The future. The way you see it is said to depend on where you sit. At XChair, we think it also gets down to how you sit, which is why our technology is light years ahead. With our groundbreaking LMX technology, bringing hot, cold, and touch into one extraordinary seating experience. At XChair, we've got our eye on the future of work, so you can focus on the present. Don't miss XChair's summer celebration sale. Save up to $400, including a free LMX with purchase. Deals end soon.
They're thinking about their next adventure. You're thinking about their next vet visit. An ASPCA pet health insurance plan helps you afford the care they need. So while they're out living their best life, you can help make sure it's a long one.
Hey.
Hey, I'm inside the bank. Where's the $500?
What?
I don't have much time. Where's the $500?
I said drop your bank, not rob your bank.
What?
I said drop your bank and get Dave. The banking app.
Yeah, I thought this was a lot of work for $500.
You think?
I mean, I would love it if you could come get me.
Oh, no. Oh, she's going to jail.
Hello?
There's an easier way you can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less when you download Dave.
Are you or a loved one between the ages of 50 to 80 years old? If you are younger than 80 years old, do you receive Social Security, Disability, or Medicare? If you answered yes, you may qualify for $30,000 in funeral insurance for only pennies a day. The average funeral costs around $11,000, and Social Security only pays $255, leaving your loved ones to pay the balance. Call now to see if you qualify for $30,000 in funeral expense coverage from Senior Legacy Life. Your rate will never increase. Your benefits will never decrease, and there is no medical exam, even if you have a pre-existing disease or illness. Don't be a financial burden to your family. Lock in your rate by completing an application over the phone right now. Will you qualify for funeral insurance up to $30,000 for only pennies a day? Find out by calling Senior Legacy Life.
Call 1-800-300-3341 to speak with a licensed insurance agent. That's 1-800-300-3341.
I fluctuate like crazy. Populush is always there for me. I love the built-in shapewear. No matter what size I am, Populush makes me feel good about myself. Live lush. Populush.
Have you ever wondered why traditional laundry detergent can contain up to 80% water? We at EarthBreeze have created a new dissolvable laundry detergent because why pay extra for water? Join the millions of Americans who have made the switch and ditched the plastic. Now available at earthbreeze.com and select Walmarts near you.
In a town of the very rich and the very poor, the Fassett family appeared to be regular, upstanding people. But on the night of October 28th, 1999, Susan Fassett is gunned down. Her police lieutenant husband, Jeff Fassett's car, is a match for the speeding getaway car, and their home is surrounded by police.
They're in the woods, hiding in the dark.
Jeff Fassett, police lieutenant, phones his own workplace to find out what's happening to his family.
First thing going through the guy's mind is, what did I do? And if you didn't do nothing, then of course you've got nothing to worry about. Maybe it's a mistaken identity, or that's what definitely be going through my mind. Well, what did I do?
But soon, the SWAT team moves in to take down the Fassets.
Jeff Bassett says, I have no idea what's going on. But no sooner do they do that, does the SWAT team roll in, take Jason and his girlfriend, tackle them to the ground, handcuff them, and then rush into the house and grab Jeff Bassett.
They brought them down to the police station. I heard that it was a very difficult interview.
This crime is in its infancy. It just happened.
Jeff tells them I was home all night.
They go very fast. Get as much information as you can.
One of the things that state police do to Jeff Bassett is they give him a polygraph.
Police do not explain to the Fassets why they're being questioned.
Now here is the horrible part. The mother of Jason and the wife of Jeff is fighting for her life as they are being questioned about her potential murder. And they don't even know what happened.
And they broke the news to him that his vehicle was involved in a shooting.
Inside the ER, Susan is fighting for her life, and she loses that fight. Susan Fassett dies from those 6 gunshots.
Police now have a murder on their hands. Susan Fassett's body will go to autopsy as the interrogation of the Fassets continues. Police grill the Fassets for about 10 hours.
It's only at the end of that interview that they say, the reason why we're doing this is because, your wife, your mother, she's been murdered, she's dead. That's how they find out about Susan Fassett being gunned down during an interrogation.
They asked Jack if he was involved, and he said absolutely not.
However, it's shown a surface of the perfect marriage. All is not well between Jeff and Susan Fassett.
They were having problems, Sue and her husband.
In September 1999, Jeff gets proof of an affair through his wife's phone calls. He confronts her, and she admits the truth. Jeff immediately moves into an apartment attached to their house. The marriage seems like it's over. But in time, they decide to seek help and save their relationship.
Sometimes 20 years go by and people grow apart. And Susan and her husband, they were getting along great, but they just weren't emotionally connected anymore.
Jeff forgives Susan, and they decide to reconcile and renew their vows. In a symbolic gesture, they throw away their old wedding bands and buy new ones.
She wants to reconcile with her husband. She loves her husband. She loves her family. She loves her life. But she's just having maybe a breakdown of some sort.
Jeff Fassett picks up his new wedding band 5 weeks later, on the day Susan is gunned down.
So Jeff Fassett explains, yeah, I knew she was having an affair, but I didn't kill her.
The polygraph results are favorable to Jeff Fassett.
He passes it. I mean, what else does the guy have to say? Not only that, but he's a lieutenant in the police department himself.
It's discovered that there is an early mistake in the case. The license plate reported seen leaving the crime that led them to Jeff Fassett is incorrectly processed.
The confusion about why they went after Jeff Fassett is that dispatch screwed up the license plate numbers and actually gave police Susan Fassett's license plate number. So it looked like Jeff had left that scene and it was all a mistake.
There are more revelations. The autopsy reveals that Susan has had sex within 48 hours. Authorities want to know if that partner was Jeff.
When Jeff Fassett offers up his DNA, he becomes very distraught because he realizes, wow, I didn't sleep with my wife. So that means somebody else did.
Faced with this devastating information, Jeff Fassett tells investigators who they should pick out. He believes he knows the man who is capable of killing Susan.
I know I didn't kill her. We'll talk to this now.
Jeff Fassett gives the police a name.
Everything is happening so fast. You got a victim. They got the plate number. They inadvertently ran the wrong plate number. But that mistake turned out to give a suspect. So inadvertently, it wasn't a total wash with the wrong plate because the husband gave up Fred Andrews, who that could be a prime suspect.
This summer, we're in a race against time as temperatures rise. Abused and neglected animals across the country are suffering right now in the unbearable, scorching heat. They're thirsty and panting, chained outside with no water, and many are desperately trying to hang on for just one more day.
Extreme heat can have a major impact on animals, and we see that all the time. You know, without shade, to be without shelter, without adequate water, and basically just left out there dealing with the baking sun all day.
Will you come forward to help save an animal in distress today? Visit joinaspca.org. Call this toll-free number or scan the code on your screen to be counted for this life-saving appeal. Donate now, and with your gift of just $19 a month, you can help save an animal's life this summer. Go online, call, or scan now. It's just 63 cents a day. We will put your gift to work right away, rescuing animals who might not survive if we don't get to them soon. But the situation is urgent, and tomorrow could be too late for an animal who is suffering in the sweltering heat right now.
In my mind, 1 more hour is not acceptable. These animals have suffered enough.
This is no way for any animal to live, and it's heartbreaking to imagine what they are going through. They're desperately trying to hang on, but time is running out. Your support is the help they need right now. Don't wait.
These animals have been dealing with that environment and probably much worse for a long time.
So visit our website, call this number, or scan the code on your screen, and donate just $19 a month. Do it in the next 10 minutes, and we'll send you this free welcome kit, including our limited edition Animal Champion t-shirt.
We cannot put an end to this type of animal cruelty without the generous support of the ASPCA donors.
If there ever was a time, this is it. So if you sign up in the next 10 minutes, we'll send you this free welcome kit, including this beautiful t-shirt, for taking action right away to save an animal's life this summer.
These animals have suffered enough, and maybe you're going to be the reason why those animals will never have to suffer again.
We're in a race against time to reach vulnerable animals who are barely hanging on. Help rescue an animal today. Go online, call, or scan right now.
The issue of animal cruelty and animal suffering across this country is a enormous issue. It's easy sometimes to kind of disassociate with something that's not right in front of you. Our commercials are showing the footage, and it's often a softened version of what is actually occurring in these situations. We see dogs carrying chains heavier than their own body weight. And this is how this dog lives its entire life. Basically a circle that this is its whole existence. We have found dogs with no protection from the elements, to be without shelter, without adequate water. Sometimes they're just left to languish until they die.
And that's why we need your support more urgently than ever. So go online, call, or scan this code to save an animal who's suffering.
When I think about the suffering that I see, and it's all terrible, it is so much more common than people think.
And so much worse. But today, you can take one simple action to save an animal's life. Just scan this code, or you can visit our website or call this toll-free number and sign up with your $19 monthly gift. You will save lives. That's our promise. Do it in the next 5 minutes, and we'll send you this exclusive t-shirt and welcome kit.
If you are there in person and you see what we're seeing and you hear the cries and the whimpering and you feel the fear, I think most people would be as outraged as I am.
Please hear their cries. Listen to your heart and help them. Go online, call, or scan now.
Coming up next on True Crime Network.
Susan Fassett is gunned down and killed outside of her church choir practice. Her husband Jeff tells police their marriage has been rocky due to Susan's affair. Jeff Fassett believes that he and his wife are reconciled, but the autopsy reveals that Susan recently had sex, and it wasn't with him. Jeff Fassett tells police the identity of Susan's affair, the man who he believes is capable of killing Susan. Their affair has been going on for years, and Susan's former lover is a surprise. The individual, a well-known and well-hated person in Poughkeepsie, Fred Andros.
When you mentioned Fred Andros' name, people would immediately go, oh, that guy. Number one, Fred Andros is corrupt as they come.
He is also charismatic, unattractive, and highly promiscuous.
My father wasn't even that good looking, to be honest with you, but things that he said to women, you're beautiful, you look so nice today, even in restaurants to waitresses, he'd call them honey, make them feel really good. Thanks for your good job. He'd go over and give them a big tip and then leave a small tip on the table. So he was very much a charmer, and women liked him a lot because he was like that.
You have people that walk in the room, they turn heads, people are looking at saying, oh, look at this guy. Then you got Fred Andros comes in and people are looking and turning around, and Fred Andros thinks he's this guy.
Married 4 times, Andros juggles affairs with several women at the same time and indulges in a predilection for prostitutes.
He was with so many women, I can't even count them. And all these affairs were even when he was married, to every wife.
Jeff Fassett believes that his wife's former affair, Fred Andros, is the person police should talk to.
Why don't you go see that Fred Andros? Because that's who she's screwing around with. Now go see him. I know I didn't kill her. Go talk to this guy.
Police act fast on Jeff Fassett's tip.
So they go to his house 2 o'clock in the morning that night and bang on his door. And Fred is just, what the hell do you want? No, not answering any of your questions. Fred is very, very abrasive when it comes to law enforcement.
Fred Andros is used to calling the shots.
Fred asks them, why are you even here? Why are you waking me up in the middle of the night? And he's abrasive and he's angry. And then they tell him Susan Fassett has been murdered. And we know you had an affair with her. And Fred actually gets very upset about this, hearing of her death.
Not only is the affair over, Fred also claims that he can prove where he was at the time of the murder.
And then Fred gives them an alibi, because they ask him, where were you? He gives them an alibi.
There's no way. There's no way he would have done that.
Fred Andros spends 3 decades as water boss for the town of Poughkeepsie, beginning in 1966.
Fred Andros had a reputation in Poughkeepsie, in Pleasant Valley, as this guy that in one way you didn't want to mess with because he controlled the water permits in the town. So if you had anything to do with water, you didn't want to mess with Fred. On the other hand, you mention Fred's name and people be like, that guy, he thinks he's a big shot, but he's a nobody.
He works in a corrupt culture of kickbacks. Fred takes bribes, but they are sanctioned by officials higher up than Fred.
You went to Fred if you were putting in a small strip mall. And you needed the water inspected, the lines, everything before you could move on. Fred was the type of guy where he'd allow you to lay all the pipes in, say, a 5-acre parking lot. And he'd allow you to start paving it. And then he'd come to you and he'd say, I want $5,000 for myself, or I don't give you the permits for this. Fred's entire life in Poughkeepsie was shaking down people for cash.
He's a small man with a big, nasty reputation.
And what's interesting about Fred Andros is he's kind of disgusting. He's ugly, yet he seemed to get the ladies. And I could never figure out while I was working on this case how that came about because he was so reviled by many people.
Everybody loved him or everybody hated him. So they loved him when they wanted something, and then they started to hate him because of what he became.
The corruption in Poughkeepsie runs high and deep. But now, all of that is crumbling from above, and Fred scrambles to save himself from being crushed. Fred's colleague, the town's property assessor, Basil Rauchi, 55, disappears on October 4th, 1997, after federal agents urge him to testify against county's Republican political boss, Bill Paroli Sr. Paroli is accused of controlling the Poughkeepsie government's shakedown enterprise. Rauchi is soon found, his lifeless body fished out of the Hudson River. Hours after Paroli's arrest, Fred Andros resigns from his 33-year water position and pleads guilty to a federal charge of conspiracy for serving as Paroli's minion.
The FBI comes in, and what the FBI likes to do is look for the weakest link. And the weakest link in this case is Fred Andros, because they know he's a coward. They know if they go to him and they squeeze him, he's going to say, I'll tell you anything you want as long as I don't go to jail. He's that guy.
Fred Andros secretly negotiates with the feds to get off easy in exchange for testifying against the big boss Paroli.
He retired, he said, due to medical reasons, but he retired because he was in trouble.
Newly retired, a major federal corruption case looming over him, Fred Andros answers questions about the brutal slaying of his former affair, Susan Fassett.
My father was up all night with police questioning him, investigators questioning him about the death of Susan Fassett.
Fred Andros and his wife hold a dinner party for friends at the time of Susan's murder, so he has an alibi. Police ask Fred if he had sex with Susan Fassett within the last 48 hours. He denies it adding he's on a medication that renders him impotent. No gun is found in relation to the killing. Without a murder weapon, forensic examiners can only study the ballistic evidence removed from the body of Susan Fassett.
She was shot with a .45 caliber pistol, and one of the bullets actually goes through both carotid arteries. So, I mean, she really didn't have a chance. Fred Andros and Jeff Fassett are cleared really with alibis. Both of them were not at that church when Susan Fassett was murdered.
However, the officers have DNA that proves Susan had sex just before her death. They want DNA from both men, Jeff and Fred, to see if someone is lying to them.
When Jeff Fassett offers up his DNA, he becomes very distraught because he realizes, wow, I didn't sleep with my wife. So that means somebody else did. And he thought they were reconciling.
Jeff Fassett's response is very different from that of Fred Andros.
He says, my lawyer says I shouldn't do it. So I gotta listen to him. I want to help, but I gotta listen to him.
Despite his refusal, officers hatch a plan to retrieve Fred Andros's DNA. The officer stops by Fred's house and invites Fred into his car to talk about the case. He brings Andros fast food, which Fred notoriously loves.
Fred's eating his burger, his fries,
but he isn't touching the soda pop. So the officer acts.
Turned the temperature in the car up as high as it could go. So Fred had to take a sip.
The officer now has Fred's DNA, but will he be able to secure it?
Sure enough, Fred says, I'm out of here. Opens the door, walks away.
Fred leaves the cup behind.
He has a soda with a straw sticking out of it with Fred's DNA on the top of it. He runs that to the lab. There's a match. Fred's DNA inside of Susan Fassett. Fred had slept with Susan Fassett within hours of the murder.
Fred Andros has lied to police about his relationship with Susan Fassett.
So Fred is dragged in and the feds are there.
And they're turning the screws to him. And they must be telling him, listen, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen. Now he starts to buckle.
Fred Andros breaks down and tells police that it's not him they should be looking at. And the case takes another unexpected turn. Fred tells police they need to investigate someone else, Susan's secret lesbian lover.
Her car is a metallic station wagon.
They asked her about a gun, and she says, yeah, I do have a gun.
They know now they have the shooter.
Think you know Weight Watchers? Allow us to reintroduce ourselves. Science has evolved, and so have we. New weight care solutions, tailored support for the whole you. Weight Watchers, the care you deserve from the brand you trust.
Tell me what you want from this.
I want to be a star.
I want to be known.
I'd like to be able to grieve.
This is the moment I've been waiting for.
Who knows where it will lead?
I promise you, I'll not let you down. If I were you, love, I'd start talking.
At Consumer Cellular, we pride ourselves on getting you the exact same nationwide coverage as the leading carriers for up to half the cost. But don't worry, we've got a lot more than that going for us. Woo!
Like this beautiful store in Arizona, for example. It's the perfect place for me to tell you a little bit more about our phones and how they can become your phones. You name it, we probably got it. We have the top smartphones from all the major companies. If it's state-of-the-art cameras you want with space-age metal housing, we got them. If you want a smartphone with lots of bells and whistles but won't break the bank, we've got that too. We even have flip phones like the Iris Flip. If you're someone that doesn't need all that mumbo-jumbo and just wants something simple. And now, we even have watches.
We do.
No matter what device you choose, you'll be happy to know that if your data needs change,
No problem.
with our SmartFlex feature, you don't have to sweat it. Like say you're on a road trip out west and end up using a bunch of data. We can simply flex you up to the next data tier for as little as $5. Then, when you get home, you can flex right back down with no penalty. So you only pay for what you actually need.
With Consumer Cellular, you get the exact same nationwide coverage as the leading carriers for up to half the cost.
I know what you're thinking. What if I don't have one of these amazing stores in my town yet? Can I get these phones sent to me?
Yes, you can.
Will our award-winning customer service help me switch over or add a line for $15 to make my own family plan?
Of course they will.
Is it easy?
Easy as pie.
You see that tower out there? It's a beauty. And there are thousands more like it, working hard for me and you, supplying 5G coverage to this beautiful nation of ours. We know how important coverage is. That's why we offer a risk-free guarantee. If you're not satisfied within 30 days of activation, you can pay nothing. Oh, look.
New customers who buy any phone get 2 months of service free when they sign up by July 31st. Call 800-311-5340 or visit consumercellular.com to switch today.
She knows what she's talking about. Pick up the phone.
They were gunned down.
This is a snowball killer.
Now, determined detectives will have to trace the ballistics to track down their shooter.
We are all hands on deck.
Targeted for murder. Next on True Crime Network.
When family woman Susan Fassett is gunned down outside of her church, police interrogate her lover, a corrupt, reviled former city employee, Fred Andros. Police outwit Andros, who inadvertently gives up a DNA sample, which proves he recently had sex with Susan. But Andros astonishes police when he points them to who he thinks the real killer is, Susan Fassett's secret lesbian lover.
My father eventually said, I think I know who did it. And they said, who? And he said, her first name is Dawn.
Fred Andros tells police that he engages in threesomes with Susan and her lover, and they need to look to Dawn Silvernail in Susan's death, who had the motive of jealousy. Fred has a 20-year friendship with Dawn Silvernail. They initially meet on Citizens Band Radio, a shared hobby.
My father, his CV handle was Neptune.
A fitting name given his role in the city's water department.
He surely was acting like it, quick as a strong-arming people, pay up or you didn't know water.
So on the CB radio, you had a handle. For Dawn, it was Delta Dawn. That's what she called herself over the airwaves. And what you did is you knew people without knowing them. So you spoke to them on the radio, Neptune speaking to Delta Dawn, but you don't really know who each other are as people.
But Delta Dawn and Neptune are soon to meet.
Dawn Silvernail, tall gal, very tall among her peers, among her friends, among her community. One of the quirky things about Dawn is she moonlighted as a country singer.
When we met her, she was a very, very beautiful woman. She had long blonde hair.
Dawn and Fred initially met when Fred took his wife out one night